Ambassador Bruno Angelet. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, now we invite Ambassador Bruno Angelet to give welcoming remarks.
Excellency Minister Winchizo, Minister of Planning and Investment, Deputy Minister Boutangsa, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Minister Famle Tuan, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Health, dear colleagues, dear friends from Europe, dear friends from all over the world, dear Vietnamese friends, let me first say that together with my colleagues, the ambassadors and chargés from the European ambassadors, we're extremely proud to have you so many here this evening. Proud to have you celebrating with us Europe Day. And first, I would like to thank very much also my team, the staff of the EU delegation, all my colleagues from the EU delegation who have been so effective in organizing the event of this evening. Europe Day, dear friends, is a day when 5 years after the Second World War in 1950, Robert Schuman, who was then Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, offered the European leaders a plan. It was an old plan aimed at abolishing forever war amongst European states and people. A plan put forward time and again by religious and humanist philosophers. A plan that has been neglected during centuries of warfare on the European continent until the middle of last century. Because yes, indeed, Europe is the smallest continent on our planet, but since the Middle Ages, it has also been the most densely populated, a continent with no internal natural borders, with no significant natural resources. And that meant that it has always known warfare and the quest for supremacy by force. And this permanent threat of warfare and the fear that Europe would be destroyed, as it almost did in the Second World War, although we have so much cultural unity and a common civilization, this threat and fear has inspired so many writers, artists and philosophers like Stefan Zweig to call for a common European destiny, common European institutions after the First World War. But their call was not heard, and Europe collapsed again, as Zweig describes in his novel The World of Yesterday, which is a monumental reminder of Europe's tragic failures. And it's really worth you read that book. On the ruins of Europe, after its self-inflicted destruction of the Second World War, Robert Schuman stated, "We didn't make Europe, and we got war." Schuman took them out of the European attics of political thought and of the bookshelves, the great European masters, numerous plans for peace in Europe. Like, for example, the famous book at that time of William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, who wrote a book for peace in Europe, published in 1693. But Schuman and many other European leaders were in particular inspired by Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher who wrote a book called For Eternal Peace in 1795. So on the 9th of May, European Schuman, 9th of May 50, Robert Schuman proposed a plan to European leaders to end warfare, first and foremost by economic integration. And European leaders of that day, for the first time ever, accepted to transpose this plan into a treaty. It's the Rome Treaty. And as you know, on the 25th of March this year, we have celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Rome Treaty. The Rome Treaty had as a purpose to ensure peace amongst the people of Europe by economic and trade integration. But trade alone would not make justice. And as Immanuel Kant advised, but also Adam Smith, don't leave the market without strong institutions and ensure that the market obeys the rule of law. Kant went as far as calling for a federal republic in Europe, but what he meant basically was to integrate European states through shared sovereignty, through common supernatural institutions. And this is, I think, what the European Union is about today. It's the greatest achievement of Immanuel Kant, but also of Robert Schuman, obviously. We are now at peace amongst each other. And yes, Europe, the European Union, is the biggest economy on earth. It is the biggest trader. 1/4 of goods and services being traded today, all over the year, comes or go to the European Union. We are the biggest investor in many areas of the world. EU investment in China is #1. EU investment in India is #1. EU investment in ASEAN is #1. Yes, EU investment in the United States is #1 of foreign investment. But we're also attached to a social market economy and remain generous abroad, providing over 60% of world ODA, overseas development aid. So yes, a global market for free trade, but with rule of law for fair trade, and for social justice at home and for peace worldwide. The European Union is an amazing achievement. It has healed many of the wounds of the past, and it kept our societies at the highest level of human development. The question now is if the EU and its member states are able to face the future challenges, and the question is if it matters for you. Does it matter for our Vietnamese friends that the EU goes well? Does it matter for all of you that the EU goes well? Well, we faced a very deep and tough crisis over the last decade. Financial crisis, unemployment, a migration crisis, and terrorism. But let's not forget that our brothers and sisters outside Europe, our friends in the Middle East amongst others, are suffering yet much more than us. We should never forget that. What we face in Europe is a very serious challenge, but we should never forget that there are people suffering much more around us. Within Europe, I think the worst is over, but people are still concerned, and many believe that national European leaders are not able or have not been able to protect them against negative side effects of globalization. And by democratic choice, citizens of Europe ask for change, and I think European leaders draw their lessons from the crisis and are preparing the next plans for reform in the future. And they will address, and they are addressing those challenges with resolve. The European Central Bank and the Euro have weathered the storm. The Euro was only 5 years old in 2007 when it came under attack, and when many famous economists were saying these are the last days of the Euro. But dear friends, I tell you, we're in 2017 and Euro is a strong currency, and it's the second biggest currency for the foreign currency reserves of central banks all over the world. And the European Central Bank is only 15 years old, but it has shown remarkable resilience and skill, as it were already unequal to its century-old peers, the central banks of other countries. The Eurozone has now a higher growth rate than the rest of Europe, or even other major developed economies, and this was unpredictable. Now, a lot remains to be done. We have to appease and comfort European citizens and make sure that they understand that the European level, the European Union, is possibly the best level of governance to protect and defend our values and make sure that the world is also a better place for all of us. As you know, the people of the United Kingdom have decided to get their government to negotiate the exit of the European Union, and within 2 years normally Brexit will be a fact. But until then, the United Kingdom remains a member with the same rights and obligations as all others, and is one of us on equal footing with the same obligations. In light of the big challenges, in March, on the 25th of March in Rome, our 27 European leaders looked forward. They celebrated 60 years of Rome Treaty and achievements of the European Union, but they also addressed the future challenges, and they put their mission statement ahead of them. It is about boosting growth and innovation while greening the economy, ensuring more freedom and security. More social Europe is also a new plan. We talked about it in a very far away, remote past, but now it's again on the agenda. And to better defend our interests, which are defined by our own history, geography, and identity, leaders call also for more strategic autonomy, a stronger European foreign policy, a stronger European defense policy, which is defined by its own interests and priorities and values. And this should allow us to assume more responsibility worldwide, including in Asia and including in support of Vietnam. So does it matter for Vietnam? Well, our open economy and societies in Europe, together with Vietnam, will grow through international integration. Vietnam desires social justice, sustainable development and rule of law at home and abroad. A globalized market needs global rule of law, and in many ways, this is good for Europe, and it is good for Vietnam, and we pursue the same objectives and the same global agenda. And Europe can be in this Vietnam's best partner. It sounds ambitious, but I think it's realistic. If we keep in mind that we're the biggest donor on earth and that we are good for #1 volumes of investments in many areas of the world, we can only hope that European investment in Vietnam will also increase once we'll have signed and implemented a free trade agreement. But we're also very important in helping Vietnam in fighting climate change, pursue Agenda 2030 and sustainable development goals. So here is my message to conclude to our beloved Vietnam. Your country moves on, we move on with your country. We have now a comprehensive partnership. We prepare a free trade agreement with tremendous potential for trade and investment. We receive almost 20,000 Vietnamese students in Europe, and we prepare for many more. We receive close to 500,000 Vietnamese visitors, tourists per year, which is showing how much Vietnam today is also exporting wealth and prosperity. Our EU members here are all very active in many areas and probably in all the provinces of Vietnam, but there is much more we have to do. We have to support Vietnam in the development of sustainable social market economy with ensured and equal access for the people to health, education and justice, which is a key objective also in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. To give you a few examples, we are very much focused now, the Deputy Minister of Health is here and he can testify, we're very much focused on making the health sector and reform sustainable. We finish a program, but we are doing the last steps to help Vietnam having a sustainable health sector. We also work with the Ministry of Justice, and together with the United Nations, we hope soon to be able to start support to the Ministry of Justice to reform the justice sector and ensure access to the justice in remote areas for the poor. Our biggest funding program on earth in the energy sector is also here in Vietnam. So with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, we prepare an ambitious reform of the energy sector, which should promote energy efficiency and energy mix, but also creating a viable renewable energy sector. On climate change, we will soon finish a scientific study with the best of teams of scientists from France, also from Germany and from Vietnam, and it will be a study about the impact of climate change and coastal erosion in 3 provinces, Cà Mau, Tiền Giang, and Quảng Nam, and we'll make practical recommendations to see how we can help Vietnam in adapting to climate change. Vietnam and Europe need one another for a better world, and the spirit of Vietnam, what makes Vietnam people so unique, the spirit and the ambition to move on by your own means and hard work, the spirit that Vietnamese share at home or abroad, is something that we, all ambassadors of European Union countries and myself, really cherish and love as a strong quality and the marvelous beauty of the Vietnamese people. Let me say also that while we celebrate the spirit of equality and fraternity, the spirit of our common universal values, we will listen in a few minutes to Minister of Planning and Investment, Minister Nguyen Chi Dung, but after that it will be a great pleasure to listen to the European anthem. The Ode to Joy of Beethoven is the anthem of those Europeans who share a single roof, the European Union, but together we share also a common roof, which is the United Nations. And we all share the dream to have a better world. So let me offer to you the Ode to Joy, our European anthem, as if it was the expression of desire of fraternity all over the world of all of us. So let us Europeans offer it to all of you, and let's consider it as the Ode to Joy of all human beings who desire for a better world. From our deepest heart, from all my European colleagues and myself, let me wish our Vietnamese friends the best. Let me wish Vietnam a fantastic future, it's very promising. And all other colleagues and friends who are here from other countries, I wish you all the best and a wonderful Europe Day this evening and for the best in the future. Thank you very much.